praise God. So today we're going to be talking about reality. What would you make real in your world today? We're talking about reality. Because a lot of us don't want to accept reality. We don't want to accept the truth. And we're going to talk about reasons why people don't want to accept the truth. But first, go with me to the book of John, chapter 20. The book of John, chapter 20, and verse 24. And here it says, the other disciples therefore said unto him, we have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, speaking about Thomas, except I shall see in the hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. Again, except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hands into his side, I shall not believe. We have, in society, have fallen away from accepting realities. Because if we can't see it, or if we can't touch it, or we can't taste it, or we can't smell it, or we can't hear it, we have a hard time accepting it. But just because we can't see it, that doesn't mean that it's not true. Or just because we feel that it's false, it doesn't always make it false. Because we understand that there are powers that are out there working on our behalf and working against us that we can't see. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that they're not true. I mean, for one, let's look at gravity. I never seen gravity. Have any of you ever seen gravity? But I know that gravity exists. Because if not, I'll be floating around up here, which sometimes I feel like I want to float around. But you know, that doesn't mean that gravity is not true just because I can't see it. I mean, oxygen. It's another example. We know that it exists, but I never seen oxygen. But you know, we know that oxygen exists. So there are certain things in life that they are true, whether or not we can see them or not. But they are reality. But sometime in life, we don't want to accept reality. We don't want to deal with reality. So today we're going to talk about realities and what would you make real in your world today? Or what would you shun to the side and say, no, I just can't accept that. That's not reality. Because sometimes we believe what we want to believe. And it's called selective amnesia. We believe what we want to believe. And we hear what we want to hear. And we have a tendency to create false realities. Because we don't want to deal with the actual truth of a matter or actual truth of a situation. So we create a false sense of security based around creating a false reality. So, and we all have different truths that govern us. We all are governed by different truths and beliefs. We all have that. But when we live a life that doesn't have reality, or we live a life where we create a lot of fallacies around our life or this imaginary life, then it's like we live in a life that has no beginning and no end. It's like living a life that just has a lot of middles. It has no beginning and it has no end because it's not anchored to anything that's true. It's not anchored to a truth, or it's not anchored to reality. So we're living a life that is somewhat an imaginary life. And a lot of times we want to create those imaginary lifestyles. You know, one thing, a couple of things about reality is that, you know, reality is true whether you accept it or not. And you can escape reality through imagination. Sometimes you can sit down and you can watch a movie or whatever, and you can just for a moment just escape the reality. But one thing about reality, you have to come back to it. Because every time you wake up in the morning, that reality is going to still be there, staring you in the face. So yeah, you can escape it momentarily, but you're going to eventually have to come back to it and deal with it and accept reality and accept the truth. And another thing about reality is that in today's society, so many people are finding themselves moving away from reality and creating, it's almost like they create a virtual life. And a lot of them do it through the internet. They can go on there and create them a imposter. And if they want to be, man want to be 6'5", 200 pounds, whatever, he can just create whatever he wanted. That's kid in there, and all of a sudden he created himself a new identity. And, ladies do the same thing. Where I heard about where this woman divorced her husband because he went on the internet and created a virtual him and started this virtual dating. It's a virtual dating game. But he fell in love with the virtual thing. He fell in love with the virtual woman. And as a result, his wife divorced him and was granted the divorce on those grounds. He fell in love with this virtual thing. So, in today's society, a lot of people are trying to escape reality through doing so many different things. I mean, when I used to drink, a lot of times I was drinking just because I wanted to just escape reality for that moment. I just drink for that reason. And so it wasn't really that much pleasure in the drinking. The pleasure was in escaping the reality. And drinking was used to help me escape that reality. But the reality came right back. It never went anywhere. I mean, it went somewhere in my mind, but reality was still there, and I had to deal with it. So today, we want to talk about reality and maintaining a constant presence in your reality. Because your reality is just that. It's your reality. It's your life. And those truths will be there whether or not you escape them through creating a secondary life, or whether or not you go out and you use drugs, or whether or not you try to mask it through sitting down eating gallons of ice creams and bags of potato chips, or whatever you do to try and escape your reality. Reality is still there. And we have to learn to deal with reality, but there's a way that the Lord wants us to deal with reality.